knife up here by any chance?
What?
A knife? You guys found a knife up here?
A long day, man.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
Okay.
Hook up that other mic. That other.
Yeah, it's connected.
Does it work?
Did you hear a test, Maida? Then it's the speaker, it's not the mic cord. I told Maida those speakers are as old as she is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started. I do miss the clock. When they refurbished this room, there was a clock behind the last backstop there. And I could look up and see what time of day it was without looking down at my watch. And so I want to be as precise as we can be, even from the start of this, so that you know that throughout the entire race course and all of its race operations, I do whatever I can to be as precise, timing, asking for things, due dates, everything. I'm a creature of terrible habit. I am that for sure. So if you're brand new to me, then you'll have some time to get adjusted. If you've been around me a long time, then it's nothing new with how I work. Enough so that when I looked at the information from last year to produce this year's information, this meeting was held on the very same day, October the 12th, a year ago. We have 6 months, basically, to perform your end of the responsibility, my end of the responsibility, and have a great race. So we have 6 months, which may seem like a lot of time, but in reality, it means everybody starts working way from prior to today, and from this point on, certainly, you begin to diligently put together your team, the same as I do. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Chuck Foote, and this is the 34th year of this race. This is how long the race has been going on. And when I spoke to the young lady off to my right over here about setting up these speakers, I said the system itself is older than she is, and that makes me pretty doggone old to have that happen. But this piece of equipment that's behind me is 34 years old, and from the sound of the speaker over here time for a change in the speakers because it sounds like it's not functioning anymore. Now let me introduce the folks that are here as guests today in the room. And let me start here on the left in the first table. This is National Life Group. And today, there is a piece of paper on your table. It says fill out a raffle. I don't know if you want a tablet, if that's something that interests you. My grandkids would love this, but I'd have no use for it myself personally because I wouldn't know how to use it. But anyway, we're going to raffle this off today. Enter the raffle. Make sure that they get your receipt over here. And if you're present at the end of the ball game here at 1 o'clock, then we'll see who's lucky, who gets this today. Javier reminded me from National Group that last year they raised $15,000 in Baker to Vegas fundraising effort for teams, which certainly means that they helped a lot of teams out there raise dollars. So they're currently looking for barbecue fundraisers, folks, teams that want to do this. So be sure that you talk to them today and see if they can help you out. If you're flush with money, one sponsor, one check, well then obviously you don't need this help. But if you're like most teams living right out of the trunk of your car, well then perhaps they can help you out. Next to them is Mobile Radio Associates. And I'm reminded on a flyer here that their price structure is effective until the October 31st date. They'll honor last year's prices as of October 31st. So if this is a function that you're interested in, be sure you stop by, take a look at the product, what they can do, and see if it works for you. Next to them is Laprack's store. This is, I would imagine, if I had to look over there right now, that's last year's product that they're having on sale. Next to them is Marie, and where are you, Marie? Here's Marie over here. If you have not paid your entry fee, you brought it with you today, be sure you see Marie. She will take the entry fee, get you a receipt, and we'll march on from there. Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Mats Holstrom. Mats is here to take and talk to you about rental of vehicles. I'll get into a major change in rule structure that might have you even talking to Mats sooner or making sure that you do take care of a change in the rules that we're going to employ this year. On the website today is the information on the host hotel, the Westgate Hotel. I talked to Ruben Crane, the general manager here yesterday, about the price structure because I went on that link myself to see what was the price of a room. And it does vary day to day. Weekdays are cheaper than weekends. This is Las Vegas. This is not new to you and certainly not new to the town. Friday and Saturday are the most expensive nights in Las Vegas. Thursday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they'll pay you to come there. So right now, the average price of a room, and I'm just going to use an average, is $116 a night at the Westgate Hotel. Those are the early bird prices, and they're effective until February the 1st, 2018. And last year, the host hotel, the Westgate, sold out. This is not uncommon for Las Vegas to do this, so be sure that whatever plans you're making, you get that in advance and hold those hotel rooms. The Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is made up of the following people. And the chairman of the Baker to Vegas Laprack Rules Committee is Rick Santos. And Rick Santos is the race director this year. Sam Zerke is our analyst. He is the person in charge of our Baker to Vegas database operations, our computer system. And Sam speaks the same language as that computer system and handles all of my problems for me. Frank Rauman, Burbank PD, retired. Rogelio Maldonado, still active with the LA District Attorney's Office investigators. Andrew Lee, retired from the LA Sheriff's. Andrew has just purchased a home in Prescott, Arizona. So he's going to be a long drive from Prescott to the Academy for monthly meetings. Kathy Meek is a captain on LAPD and on the committee. Dave Miklos is retired sergeant from the LA County Sheriff's. Pat Larrigan, there's Pat back here in the corner, with me a long time from Glendale PD, and myself. Along with those people on the Rules Committee are the key folks that make the race work. I've explained this to lots of people over all of the years, and those of you involved in the room that have done anything yourselves to coordinate large events realize you personally can't do every job. And there are many jobs of which you're totally unqualified for. Radio operations, I am totally unqualified for. You hand me the radio, I think I know how that part of it works. But why it works, I don't profess to know. And as often as people try to tell me, unfortunately, I forget. And that's the end of that. In our communications operation, and hopefully listening to this broadcast in New Mexico, is Joy Matlack. With me today is Margie Hoffman, right here. And with her is Jeff Lee. I'll get to Jeff Lee's part, or maybe I'll even touch on it right now. All of the radios you use, all of the radios, whatever they are, will be coordinated through Jeff Lee. Over 270, Jeff, how many radios last year? Frequencies? Oh, I'm sorry, 600 frequencies used on the race course. That's unmatched, I'm sure, any place in the United States that 600 frequencies would be used in one event, in one place, at one time. All done so in such a fashion as not to step on each other. And that's done because you submit your communications form to Jeff, and Jeff coordinates that operation. And if I try, I'd bore you to tears to tell you how many different kinds of radios are used out there. Remarkable. But here's one not to use. Don't plan on it, don't take it out there. A department radio. Don't take those out there. Don't take them out there. This right here, my cell phone, I dropped the other day. Much as I try to tell my grandkids, don't drop the telephone. I dropped it. It cost me $500 to replace it. In the last World Police and Fire Games, we lost a radio. That cost $700 to replace it. This is peanuts compared to what it costs you if you break or drop or lose a department radio. Those things cost in the thousands of dollars. So don't take them out there. Don't plan on it. Our light tower operators, Matt and Aida Kukowitz. Our medical operation, Dr. Troy Pennington and Robert Seabreeze. Our motor operator is Larry Wehedge, been around me a long time. Larry controls and operates the motors. RV support, back in the far corner of the room, is Lisa Villa. And Barbara, I saw Barbara in here earlier. Barbara Ginn handles the awards. These are the key volunteers that assist me in making this thing happen. I told you there's going to be a change in the rules, and I'll get to that right now. In the follow vehicle operation, we're going to set a standard for a vehicle that can be no larger than the dimensions I'll put into the rules. These dimensions basically allow you to use up to a 15-passenger van for height and length and width of the vehicle. I did this because last year I observed several vehicles, and I think it's called a spinner or spinster or sprinter. That size vehicle is too big. Too big to see around it, too big to be operating on that roadway. And if you tried to operate that in the shoulder lane, you would be too wide for the shoulder lane. So that vehicle, that size of vehicle will not be allowed. Under the best of circumstances, and that's still a possibility, not a reality. Under the best of circumstances, I will have a coordinator contacting you, telling you to take a picture of what is your proposed follow vehicle. What are you going to use? And if you're going to simply contact Matt's here, rent a minivan picked up in Las Vegas, then you just tell me so, and I won't need to have a picture of that. But if you're going to use something from your department, or you're going to use something you've used over the years, then I'm going to have somebody contact you and say, take a photo and send it to us, so I can see exactly what are you going to do. A team last year had what I thought was the best idea I've seen in a long time. It was the team number in the back of the follow vehicle that was maybe 2 feet tall, took up the whole back window, and was lighted. And I thought, wow, that is a great idea. So I've contacted that team, and they've told me who they got that from. I'm going to send that to you as just a good idea. Try this. Because I thought it did an excellent job of telling me who am I following, who is right in front of me. Because at night, no matter how tough we try to do this, it is still hard to see those reflective numbers at night. Last year we started with 274 teams, and we finished with 274. That in itself is a miracle. Because I'm sure there were teams out there that were just panicking over all the problems that probably happened to them over that course of 24 hours. To date, I've taken in 286 teams. Yesterday I had a volunteer, a very nice volunteer, been around me a long time, assisting me with calling teams that had not submitted a team entry form. If I'm talking to you today and you have not done this, then don't leave this room without turning one in. It is my roll call. It tells me you intend to run. You ran last year, you intend to do it again. But when I do not hear back from you, then I have to make a phone call to you to determine, are you going to run? And when I get people that waffle, I'll give you a certain amount of time to determine if you're going to do this or not, and then I unplug you and give that number to someone else. More than likely, absolutely more than likely, we will start more teams than we did last year. So when people ask me, what's the biggest amount of teams ever in the race, I just say, wait till the following year and you'll see the biggest number we've ever taken. 6,000 plus runners. On the California side, that's 3,000 runners. I'll get into a medical explanation in a second here, but 3,000 runners are running inside of California. The other 3,000 or thereabouts are in the Nevada side. There are 900 support people, volunteers in this race course. 900. You could not run this race, I could not run this race without those 900 people. Obviously, I don't do what Jeff does. I'm not going to coordinate your radios. I just tell you, don't take anything if it were totally up to me. So I need people like Jeff, like Lisa, like all of those volunteers that bring out those additional people that handle the operations of this race. Cooperation from the law enforcement agencies and the fire agencies in the area that we run is paramount. Absolutely. From the Highway Patrol, our initial start of the race, to the Nye County Sheriffs in Pahrump, to the Las Vegas Metro Police, to the Nevada Highway Patrol, and this year, San Bernardino County Fire Department. We've leaned on the county fire department a little bit over the last few years. This time around, we're probably leaning on them much harder to try to help us out. The ambulance company in San Bernardino County that has helped us over the years cannot do it this year. AMR San Bernardino will not be able to assist us with ground ambulance. So now I'm researching just where do we go from there. Part of the answer might be San Bernardino County Fire. We'll see. So obviously, from an emergency point of view, agency's point of view, we lean on a lot of people to help us out, and they do. This is a short summary of the rule violations of last year. I point this out because quite often in my own discussion of this race with people who are not involved in the race at all, that are either permitting people from different public agencies, that when I say this is the Baker to Vegas race, they think of motorcycles, first of all. And when I get past that issue of it's not a motorcycle race, that it's a law enforcement running relay race, then their mind's eye says you're just out there to have fun, drink beer, and shoot cactus. And I said, that is not allowed. None of that you just described is allowed. We enforce the rule book. Unlike races anywhere else you'll ever go to, we have a rule book and we have an enforcement arm to that. And the first rule I'm going to talk about here was a disqualification last year. I have not had to disqualify a team in a long time. This DQ occurred because the volunteer for that team left, decided they'd had enough at the exchange point they were at, and they left. No emergency, didn't tell anybody anything, just picked up their marbles and went home. And when it came time for that stage to close and all of the volunteers there signed out, that one wasn't there. It resulted in the team being disqualified. That's a tough pill to take. Who you assign to this race, as I ask you to submit a volunteer, is critical. Show up on time, do their assigned job, and go home on time. That's the basic responsibility. The rule book describes them as a sworn volunteer. Do they have to be sworn? No. They can be non-sworn. Attached to your agency, your station, your department, clearly you have control over that person. If they screw up, well, then there's going to be hell to pay back at the station. But if you assign this to somebody who's just a friend, then what control do you have over that? And what responsibility are you placing on that person? This is what you have to know. When you submit a name to me, I don't do a background check to say this person's assigned to Norwalk Station or to Rampart Station. I don't do that. I simply accept that you've given me somebody who's going to work. So be sure that's the case. Every year when I do this particular polling of the violations, always oddities jump out at me. Not the normal one. The normal one of you took a 10-minute penalty for a down runner. Okay, those happen every year, and perhaps they're unavoidable. Alternate not checked in. Somehow or another, a team got themselves in a position where they wanted to use an alternate runner, but the alternate runner did not check in. Didn't get a bib number, just ran a stage. Well, you stand out like a sore thumb when you do that, and this happened to one of the teams. This one sticks out because I use it quite often. You do not respond to a call on the FRS radio. I'm trying to contact you. The FRS radio is inside of the follow vehicle. The driver is listening to that FRS radio. And when I come up behind you to say, hey, where's your strobe light? Move over to the right. You're in the middle of the road talking to your runner. And I don't get a response. And I try several times, still don't get a response. Now I finally pull up alongside of you and roll your window down and say, turn your FRS radio on and listen to what I have to say. Failure to do this. Well, they'll take a certain amount of that, and then eventually the motor officers out there are going to write you an infraction. This happened to somebody. Sound systems. Every year I tell you, between stage 18 and the finish line, no personal sound system of any sort. And I get all sorts of peculiar oddities about, hey, this one gives me splits, this one tells me what time of day it is, this one tells me how fast I'm running. And I'm saying, listen, you're only running 5 miles, and you're trying to run as fast as you can. What more help do you need than that? You know, is this thing gonna run for you? I don't think so. So telling me no systems of any sort from 18 to the finish. So if you have people on your team that absolutely, like an umbilical cord, cannot run a workout, run anything without listening to radios or music or what have you, don't put them on those stages. Medical report. 255 people were treated by the medical staff. The vast majority, nearly everybody, from stage 1 through the state line at stage 10. That's the vast majority of people. Inside of Nevada, very few people are treated, but 255 were. 6 were transported to the hospital. 2 were transported by helicopter directly from the race course to Las Vegas. The decision on where the person goes is made by the ground medical personnel and by the flight personnel. They decide where that person's going. This last year, we put into our operation a doctor, an actual doctor at every single exchange point in California. The doctor at those exchange points where this particular transportation occurred was there to tell the flight people, take this person directly to Las Vegas. They have the best emergency room operation there is out there is in Las Vegas. Pahrump is very good, and Pahrump took care of the other 4 personnel who were ground transported. From the start line to Pahrump is 60 miles. That's how far that is. That's one long ride. If you go down inside of stage 1, to be ground transported all the way to Pahrump is one long ride. But that did happen for 4 people. Of the 2 that went directly to Las Vegas, and it's always interesting because if you're cops, you certainly know that if you talk to them enough, they'll roll over and tell you everything. Well, these 2 did. When the doctor asked the question, what have you been doing to yourself? One immediately says, well, I was out drinking the night before. Okay, well, that answers why you're dehydrated. That answers to why your core temperature is 103 and you're going to Las Vegas. When they interviewed the other and they said, what have you been doing? Well, I take this drink and this concoction of that and this and the other, and I drink all that before I run. And that's why they're in that shape. Neither one of them listened to the information given to you that says, don't do these things. They did exactly those things. And that's why they ended up in Las Vegas. And no matter what, it's still a scary experience. When I watched both those people do this, the one person that had been drinking, I said, he doesn't look that bad, but he's cooking on the inside. The core temperature is well over 100 degrees, and he's being cooked on the inside, and you just can't see that. Okay, you're the doctor, I believe you. So if folks don't always listen, if you were the team captain and you told these people this information and they still disobeyed you, well, there's only so much we can do. The race temperature out there last year had to be one of the better situations we've had in a long time. Moving this race into the month of March has given us that opportunity to be in the best conditions possible. And we'll stay that way because the risk is too great. You have to go back to work, most of you here. We're trying to protect you to get you back to work. And sometimes we're trying to protect you from yourself, and that's difficult to do. But the month of March gave us those kind of weather conditions, and the doctors out there did their job, and we only had 6 real emergencies. We were geared up for much more than that, but we only had 6. And that's a tremendous tip of the hat to you as team captains and to the runners, hopefully, that know exactly how hard to push themselves. The RV support, some great people taking out motorhomes. And until recently, I hadn't really thought too much about what does a motorhome cost until a friend of mine purchased one. And I said, well, what'd you pay for this? Well, it started at $250,000. And for every little this, that, and the other thing that made it better, it just creeped up closer and closer to $300,000. I said, really? I said, for just a motorhome? What does it do? I mean, you'd have to use it every single day of your life in order to make that thing pay off. But this is the expense these folks put into their motorhomes. And never mind the fuel that it takes to drive out there, or the fact that they're there in Baker for an entire week. That's how long they stay out there. And these folks do a wonderful job for us, to be there to ensure that the proper runner runs the proper stage. And while we did have a few glitches in the get along, as I explained to the coordinator today, as you have discovered yourselves, when you put 2 type A personalities in the same space, sometimes they get along, and sometimes they fight like 2 dogs. Well, there was a couple of occasions where there were some fights like 2 dogs, until somebody got worn out and somebody won. So sometimes we have to put out little fires like that, even amongst our volunteer corps. Our motor officers, again, did a great job of policing and escorting duty at the start line. That's their main function, that escort duty. A major wrinkle occurred last year, and I'll touch on it now. In the start of the race, very early on, there was a shooting in Las Vegas, and there was a hostage situation. And all of that occurred, and it shut down a hotel, and it shut down part of Las Vegas Boulevard. And when that happened, teams were stuck inside that hotel. Couldn't get out. And now all of a sudden, that news gets reported back to the race course, and what are we going to do about it? And all of that effort, we got by, even involving a couple of occasions when the motor officers had to escort runners without having a follow vehicle. All of this took place, and we overcame that problem. Again, back to our radio communications, 330 amateur radio operators, an entire system that's placed out there to ensure that we have emergency communications. Command posts located in the host hotel at the top of the floors, all the way out to the race course. So should there be an emergency, as there was last year, then that's how that information is going to be reported, so that everyone on the race course is aware of what's going on. And should we have to find you on the race course, we have a good shot at doing that. Our ham safety patrol are extra eyes on the race course, looking for medical problems, down runners. You've gotten better and better at how to handle a down runner. They've gotten better and better at observing this situation, reporting it to our main radio dispatch, and getting assistance to that area. And this is working for us. They do a great job. Medical communications is different than amateur radio communications. Amateur radio communications says you are a ham, and in order to use a ham radio, you must be a ham. Medical radio communications is not amateur radio operations, but it does work off the very same principle. A 911 system is taken to the race course in a can, taken out of the can, placed on the race course, gives us the opportunity to dispatch equipment, make radio transmissions over our own 911 system. Tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, a group of those same radio operators are going out to the race course and testing the system to be sure that it's operational, testing all of its location, testing the repeaters. These are volunteers. They're giving up their weekend to do this for the race, for you, for me. Great people. These are all engineers. And unless you're an engineer, you can't talk to them. You do not speak their language. They speak an engineer's language that I don't even understand. Just enough so that when I say, is this going to work? They say yes. Then I trust them that it's going to work, and it has worked. Your volunteer officers, as I start to gather that information, my first view of that is, who are the OICs? Do I have those same OICs coming back again this year? And I look forward to those people. There's about 24 different spots where I have an OIC, an officer in charge. And of those 24, generally speaking, I'll get 2/3 of them repeating the same person. That experience just can't be replaced. The desert out there may not change for 1,000 years, but they're familiar with their spot, how it works, what's going to work best and what's not going to work. So I really do depend on you to give me that experienced volunteer in return. Race timing. We're going to use our same timing company we've used the last couple of years. And while this is Dan Whitten from the LA Sheriff's Department, it's his company. He is very, very keenly wants to be able to have a website operational as close as it can be to live operation, indicating each exchange point, the closure of an exchange point, and what did those people run. Now, I've been running a long time, some 50 plus years or 55 years of running. If I want to know how fast I run, I time myself. Okay? I tried to tell that to Dan. But he seems to think that, hey, this is a neat thing to do. And I said, yes, it is, but there is no internet on the race course. No pushing a button and having that go live on the race course somewhere. It doesn't exist. There's nothing out there. Rattlesnakes, and that's it, and rocks. So we're trying to develop something that may be able to do what Dan is asking to do. If that does come to pass, then you'll be able to go on a website and you'll see how fast did your number 3 runner run after the close of stage 3. We'll see. Online registration. I've had a few teams contact me and say, what's my password to online registration? I'm saying, how could you possibly know who all your runners are already? Most of you just have a hard time finding the police academy. How would you know who those 20 people are? Some know. And I said, well, you're too early. Give it a little time. I'll send you your password. You'll be able to go online and type in your runners. Other than that operation, the website is open to anyone. You do not need a password to look at the website. Now that's very good, but it also has a cost to it. I want everybody to see this, everybody. So they know that what we're doing out there, we're following those rules. We punish those that don't. And this is a race. This is not the Ragnar relay. We're out there just having fun. This is a race. And I was pointed that out earlier today because I saw a team actually taking a look through last year's data to say, if we just change a little bit, where do we have a chance at a mug? Where can we win a category if we just adjust a little bit? I'm sure you're doing the same thing. You want to win a mug. You want to win a category. And you're going to look hard at where you do that. And you're going to train your personnel, and you're going to try hard. So this isn't just all about fun. This is a competitive race. The individual that runs that online system is located in Santa Rosa. And I don't have to tell you, there are fires raging all over that area. He was evacuated from his home. And when he was evacuated from his home, he shut his system off. So even if I gave you your password right now, you couldn't go into it. The system is closed. He's a great guy. All I've ever done is talk to him over the internet, talk to him on the telephone, send emails. I've never met him in person. But he's just one very, very nice guy that really helps us out. Enough so that in the past, all of the names you use as your runners were manually typed by 2 clerk typists who typed for 2 days to type all those names into the system. And I was talking to her the other day because she's come into my office and volunteered some time, and I said, do you remember those old days of typing all those names? Oh yeah, sure. Getting to the point where she could not read your writing and just put in whatever it became. Yeah, I know those. Now today, that's your job. If you misspell your person's name, it's on you. If they call me and say, my name is misspelled, and I say, you call your team captain and chew him out for misspelling your name. Last year, we increased our stations for ice and went all the way through to the state line. From the starting line to the state line, and provided ice and water. And we'll do the same again this year. Banking on the fact we'll have mild weather, but we'll have ice and water there. And as it always happens in the past, we end up with additional water that we don't use. Well, that's okay. Better to have too much than run out. Our finish line operation. Our change of last year to say you must now have a catcher at the finish line. And Dave Welch, most of you have not met Dave Welch. He's the OIC of the finish line operation and was always concerned that a person finished and sort of just disappeared in that big crowd of people. And we were just hopeful that he never had a problem. There was no one to take care of him there. Well, now today you have a catcher at the finish line, so we ensure that that person has at least one individual there to take care of them. I'm sure a great many of you remember and went through stage 17 and the road work that occurred last year. I haven't been out on the race course. I haven't spoken to anyone lately about what's occurring on the next piece of that project. That project is moving northbound, let's call it northbound on 160, all the way from the 15 freeway to the top of Ibex Pass, up top of Mountain Springs Pass. The last piece of work got them about 4, maybe 5 miles from the top. But the next piece of work is the hardest. To fill in those canyons, to expand that roadway all the way to the top of Mountain Springs Pass, going to be one big chore. We'll see how it affects this year's operation. Stage 17, you went through this. We had to move it to the other side of the road, have the runners cross the road, cross again. It was an experience for sure. Worked out. Nevada Highway Patrol were great at assisting us in doing that. Everyone got through that exchange point safely, and it happened. It had to look very peculiar for sure, but it happened all right. We'll see what happens now on the next piece of that road work. I mentioned down runners. There were 23 down runners last year. Now it's your job, team captain, to be sure that everybody gets back to work, operational, alive, and not hurt. How you take a runner off the race course you think is having a problem. That's a tough little operational decision to make before they become so bad that they fall down. Well, you've waited too long, way too long if you waited for that person to fall down before you've replaced them. So these 23 runners had a problem of some kind and were replaced on the race course. So the system that we use to do that, the alternate runner in the follow vehicle, prepared to run, gets out of the vehicle, picks up the baton, and starts to run. The follow vehicle takes that individual that they consider to be a down runner, and they move that individual to the exchange point where medical services are available. You're never more than a few minutes, one direction or the other, from those medical services. So that is your job. We cannot get a ground ambulance to you fast enough to take care of that individual. So it's always a tough choice. Who do you have in the follow vehicle? Can they pick that person up and put them in the follow vehicle? I've seen some runners out there, that would be a pretty tough chore. Pick up somebody that weighs 270 pounds, and they're not helping you. So you have to figure out what you're going to do there. Unfortunately, on Monday evening, I could not make a dinner with the Queensland from Australia team captain who happened to be in town. I would have liked to have made that, but I couldn't. Queensland, Berlin, both ran in the race last year. You know what it takes for you to be here and you're local. Imagine if you had to take your 20 people and your 20 support people to Australia or Berlin or England or Wales and run in a race. How long would that take you to plan? And how much money would that cost? So obviously they can't come back-to-back years. Belize, on the other hand, and I don't know how they do this, but their intention is to run again this year. And they have gotten better and better every time. And I'm sure out on that race course, as I listened to the radio and listening to a description of how they were doing, in that first 5 or 6 stages, they had everybody in shock. They were running very fast. But the race is 20 stages, and it catches up with you if you don't have 20 good runners. But they still finished 3rd overall in the race, and that's pretty impressive. But they're coming back this year. Our friends from Canada, they're coming back. The RCMP, the Calgary police teams, they're going to be back. They enjoy getting out of the frozen part of the world. And for them to come to March race when it's 30 or 40, maybe not that cold, 40 degrees out there, they think that's summer heat to them compared to what they come out of. We will have a team here from New York. NYPD is going to bring in a mixed team this year, and that'll be good to see them back. We'll have several new teams. Some are hopeful, let's call them that. Detroit Police Department. I know roll off my lips as a group of people that do any running, but perhaps they can. They're interested, they want to do this. The Chief of Police of Detroit is an LAPD captain, commander, something, and became the chief there. And he took the idea of Baker to Vegas with him, and he's trying to convince those folks to do this. We'll see what happens. So there are going to be several new teams. The U.S. Border Patrol and the Customs and Border Protection Agency are probably the biggest growing agencies in the United States, and this idea of Baker to Vegas has grown with them. Enough so that I had a team contact me from the Border Patrol, and they said, Border Patrol, we want to run. I said, well, which one? There's about 7 Border Patrol teams here. Let's identify you, at least from what area. And they said, well, we're from San Diego. I said, I already have a San Diego team. You got to be more specific than that. And I've already forgotten what they called themselves, but they had another name for themselves. So this Border Patrol and Customs Border Protection is increasing in size. So we'll have a lot of new teams out there. We have a team from Tempe Police Department. We have a team from, let's see, where are they from? I want to say they're from Texas somewhere. Where that happens, I try to match up a team with somebody in that general area that can help them out so they're not trying to reinvent the wheel all themselves. How does this work? What do you do? And I see a team captain or two in here who's trying to train their replacement. Hey, this is how you do this. Well, hopefully you do, and it continues on for your agency and your team. So if I call upon you to help somebody, please do. I know you would anyway, but please do. The trademark, the term Baker to Vegas. Talking to my volunteer, and I said, that wasn't the original name of this race. We never used that name, Larry and I. It was a Challenge Cup relay. We called it that. That's what we called it, and that's how we ever referred to it. I don't think very many people do that anymore today. So Baker to Vegas sticks with lots of folks. If you intend to use that term in any way, shape, or form, on the website there is a trademark agreement form. If it is for your internal use, you're going to produce a shirt for Newton Division, or you're going to have something for the Highway Patrol, fine. Submit it. It'll go directly to the general manager right here, and I'm sure you won't have a problem with whatever it is you're trying to do. But please make sure that you have that so there is some general control over where that trademark is going. The entry fee. 106 teams as of yesterday had paid their entry fee. I had one team contact me for the very first time ever in this race, who said, we paid your entry fee. You cashed the check. I said, never got here. Who cashed the check? So after a little bit of good old 101 detective work, they found out that somebody had intercepted that mail, scratched out lap rack, wrote in their own name, and cashed the check. And I said, that's just beyond imagination. What bank teller would take a check from somebody that scratched out a name and wrote their own name there? It just doesn't seem possible. This is all today's day and age. When you take a picture of a check and you submit it that way, as opposed to handing it to a teller, that could happen. I said, well, okay. There went $2,200 into the I don't know where you do about it now basket. But anyway, 106 teams have paid. I'm sure Marie will take a number of them today. You have until the 30th of November to pay your entry fee. The 30th of November. December 1st, I will call you and say, what happened? Are you still out there selling donuts on a street corner? What are you doing? Where is your $2,200? I don't want to have to do that. I will occasion, because I know it's going to happen. But you have until the 30th of November. Of the 106 teams that have paid to date, the number one team that paid, when their volunteer says, I want to work the finish line, will get the finish line. They'll get stage 3. They'll get whatever they're asking for. When you're number 286, don't even bother asking, because you're going to get what I need you for and not anything else. In the inverse order in which you pay will be the assignment of your volunteer. I will insist now that nobody submit a volunteer that's coming to the race anyway. Don't submit Pete Demetrio. Pete's going to be there. I know it. I saw him earlier today. Don't submit a Jeff Lee. He's already going to be there. Don't give me somebody that's already committed to the race and is going to be there. If you do that, I'm going to return it to you and say, sorry, you can't use this person. They're already going to be there. Give me somebody else. So be sure that if you're using volunteers, you know, our medical staff, radio staff, what have you, and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board and find someone else. I met with the Rules Committee this morning, short of a few changes here and there that we're going to make. Certainly the rule change to the follow vehicle, and one more significant one that affects a few. No drones. Okay? No drones. Don't take one out there. Don't let anybody else take one out there. If you do, I'm going to sic Scott Hall on you. And Scott Wall from the CHP is my pit bull when it comes to enforcing that rule. He will be all over you. He will find your drone. He will either break it in two and give it back to you in a box. Don't take a drone out there. The helicopters, the pilots out there are just absolutely will not fly if they know that's occurring out there. And I told them that we're going to put this in the rule book clearly. We're going to enforce it any place we see it. So be sure that everybody in your whole package of people is aware of this. No drones. The 2018 rule book, it is my intention to have that online by this time next week. Cleaned up, and a 2018 version of the rules will be there. Take a look at it, read through it for yourself to be familiar so that you're aware of exactly what goes on. Now, some cutoff dates. For brand new employees, January the 1st, 2018. Are they on your agency as of that date? January the 1st, 2018. To the LAPD teams, it's a clear, simple question. Who is in your division as of deployment period 13? That's December the 23rd, 2017. Who is in your station? That will be a clear question. If they transfer and they're in somewhere else, then that's where they run. Okay? For everybody else, it is January the 1st. For the Sheriff's Department, which has a big transfer, for the Highway Patrol, that has a huge transfer. If you're in Beverly Hills PD, there is no transfer. You're just there. So it doesn't affect you. So let's be sure. Deployment period 13, December the 31st, 2017. Brand new employees, January the 1st, 2018. Pete Demetrio asked me the question, if you really ran 290 teams, would you have a 7 a.m. start? I said, no, Pete. No, 7 a.m. it might sound on the surface to be the answer to additional teams, but the reality is that extra hour affects everybody out there. Everyone, including me, having to get up even earlier in order to be on that race course before all of this occurs. So no 7 a.m. start. We will increase the size of each flight as we have additional teams by ability. But that's how we'll answer that question. 9 starts from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. 9 starting times. Precisely on the hour, we'll start. This last year, we had a pretty good situation in which the last starting time, 4 o'clock, did not contain anyone that could not maintain that ability. And they are in a precarious place. If you've given me a fast time and you do not maintain that, then you're going to fall behind. We can absorb a certain amount of falling behind, but not to the point in which you get too far back. So it's critical. And I will question you if you try to submit to me that you're going to run 14 hours or 15 hours and 5 minutes, and last year you ran 17 hours, then the first question is, how did you get so lucky? Who transferred to you to make you that much faster? How did you test your people? How did you determine this time? If you're a proverbial 20-hour team and you submit to me 20 hours and 10 minutes, then I'm not going to call you. I'm not going to question you. But if you're fast, then I will. If you tell me you're slow, but you really are fast, and all you want to do is be the lead person out there, that's your only claim to fame. You know you're not going to win a mug. You know you're not going to win a category. You just want to be first on the race course. So you tell me you run 19 hours when you really run 17 hours. You're going to be a problem. In which case, we have to go out there and stop you. Did this last year. I had to stop a team like 3 times and say, what's going on here? And then finally, the reality struck and they slowed down. But those 3 times of stopping somebody, it's not an easy thing to do. So be sure that your estimated time is as good and accurate as you can make it. Don't have to get into this one too often, but we did last year. Trash. One of the ugly jobs there is to do, John Marnell, Joy Matlack, and a few others go backwards on the race course Sunday morning. At each exchange point, they're giving it a general look to say, is this place squared away? And a few of them were not. And I'm very disappointed that our OIC did not hand out the gloves, hand out the trash bags, tell the volunteers, police all the trash. Put it inside the porta potty so the crows and the animals don't scatter it everywhere, and clean up the desert. So let's be sure, as much as you humanly can, that we do that policing ourselves. When I run a stage and I try to run the first couple of stages, I know as I watch teams take 1 drink of water out of a water bottle and then throw it down on the ground like they were in their backyard. I say, whoa, wait a second here. Don't do that. They catch up to their follow vehicle and say, hey, go back and pick that up. Don't just leave trash out here. We don't want to follow a trail of water bottles all the way to Pahrump. So don't do that. We don't anticipate any changes in the categories. I think I've made the category definitions and explanations as clear as I can make them. Be sure that if you're going to run in one of the invitational categories, you have 2 non-sworn runners, not just 2 people on the team. You can't count the driver as one of your non-sworn. They must run in the race. They must complete a stage in the race. So be sure if you're going to do this. The running baton. We'll do what we've done over the last few years. On the running baton, we'll list those personnel that have passed away in the year's time between now and last year's race. I know that occurred with Whittier PD. We didn't quite make that deadline for Whittier last year, and I know they want to do something for their officer this year. We will do that. You submit to me their name. You submit to me what is significant in their numbering. Serial number, employee number, call sign, whatever it might be, and we'll put that on the baton. So there'll be a list of names on the baton. The bib number, your bib number, can contain a photograph if you wish to have that. Last year, I had photographs given to me in a handful of different formats. Well, I'm not the wizard of Photoshop, so I'm just going to take whatever you give me and send that off to the printer. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes that's a poor quality. If you get it to me soon enough, I have a very good friend and classmate that graduated retired a few years ago who got into this Photoshop business and loves it. Perhaps he can help these photographs out. But if you want a photograph of somebody significant to your team placed on that bib number, then gather that information, send me that photograph attached as a JPEG file. Some folks attached it to the email itself, and I send it back to you and say, I can't use this. I can't. JPEG file, separate photograph, the best quality you can. Team competition, gathering of teams, let's put it that way. Agencies, combinations. If you're going to do this and you haven't done this in the past, then submit to me, who do you want to combine with? You can combine up to 4 different agencies or stations to make a team. You can do this. Just submit to me what it is. Be sure, because I want your team name to reflect this. So later on, the rules committee doesn't get faced with somebody saying, hey, that team, Wilshire PD over here, Wilshire Station, they had South Bureau traffic running with them. And their name doesn't say that. And then they have to go round and around explaining all this. So be sure, if you're going to combine, then I know who you're combining with. Performed many, many marriages of that sort, and I've also been the one involved in divorces of that sort. When teams want to separate, we'll try to do what we can to help you. Retired personnel. I have been retired 20 years. Long time, 20 years. I run on a team made up mostly, almost entirely of retired personnel. And we're just happy to be alive and compete in the race. And our number, which reflects our ability, has grown to 2 to 3 digits. We're getting older and slowing down, unfortunately. Retired personnel are able to run. If you choose to use a retired person on your team, they are considered sworn personnel. Even if they've taken a job in your station or your agency in some civilian capacity or as a reserve, they are still a part of your team. They're still a sworn member of that team. So your category choice, if you're going to use somebody that is a retired person, and they become a reserve, they are still a sworn personnel in your choice of categories. Jeff, if I remember right, November the 9th, communications seminar? Okay. A race communications seminar conducted by Jeff Lee here and others will be here on the 14th of December. I'll put that information out to you early. You'll be able to get your communications persons here and go through a step-by-step process of what's going to work and what isn't going to work on the 14th of December at our regularly scheduled meeting. I do not see Dan Whitten here, so I don't know what the story is on sheriff's mug runs. Does anyone here know that? I heard 5 races starting when?
January.
Oh, in January. Losing a few gears here. I've run in a few of those mug runs. Wonderful events. Very inexpensive. Done the right way. Close off everything, run their race, and have a good time. Great events. So please, if you've got 5K races, 10K races, something you're doing, something you're trying to get involved in as a fundraiser for you, send me the information. Happy to send it out to everybody and get those involved in racing. There is a difference, like across the Grand Canyon difference, between training and racing. You're going to ask 20 runners to race, not train. And if you do not take them to races or they don't race themselves, then you cannot expect somebody to do something they've never trained to do. Racing is entirely different. Take them to races often as you can. Now, my last subject, outlook of me. That's about the only way I can describe it. Birthdays have funny kind of attachments to them. And I just celebrated mine here not too far back and turned 70. Yeah, I know, that's a long time. And lots of folks see me and say, oh, no, that's not right. It's, you know, you're fit, you're this, you're that. No, 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 no. 70 is still 70. I know it when I get out there and run. When kids about 6 years old pass me, then I know I'm 70. And people that normally in the past I could have outrun in street shoes, can't even come close to them anymore. Yesterday I was talking with or having lunch with the LAPD department team. And I looked out at that team and the only person I knew were two individuals who had 30 years on the job. They're the only two I knew. The rest of them, no. The running shoes I have are older than they are. So they don't know me and I don't know them. They're much faster than I am, and that's fine. So 70 is an interesting age to hit. Well, I'm 70 now. A year ago, and I'm saying this to you, both to the men in this room and to those of you that have people that fit as I'm going to describe to you. A year ago, right about now, as I took a physical every year for the past 20 years, the doctor that I have said, your test has a spike here. It's a PSA test, prostate specific antigen test. Those of you that are 50 years old in this room who do not take a physical annually, start. That test indicated to me that there was a problem. And that problem went from, let's look at this some more, to another doctor, to a biopsy, to a determination there was cancer. And that led to a question, what do you do about that? And through all of that tests and all of that discussion and all of that work, which took about 5-6 months, the determination was to have surgery. I've never been in a hospital in my life. That was an experience. One I do not want to take again. But that experience told me that if you do not take care of yourself, then you will be forgotten about as history forgets about everybody. And I spoke to the board of directors here recently and mentioned a name, Bob Burke. And there's no one in this room, short of maybe Chuck here, that would remember that name. Yet he was the most significant person there is, or was, in LAPD athletic history. Hardly anybody remembers his replacement, Larry Moore, who took that athletic program to the height of LAPD excellence in his 15 years of the athletic director here. But I know very few people on that board knew who he was. Well, that'll be the same with me. I know that, and that's just the way it is. What I'm telling you here is get yourself tested. The only reason I'm standing here today, cancer-free, is because those guys did test me. And when it came time to decide, what are you going to do about this? I took the only choice that I saw fit. Well, between that, 70, and 2 grandkids has led me to the decision I made a few months ago. And that is these next 2 races, this one, and a very significant one to me, the 35th annual race, 35 years of this race, will occur in 2019. Those will be the last 2 I will do as a race coordinator. Okay? I want you to know that, even though my wife says, why are you telling these people this? I said, because they need to know. Some people plan that far out. I don't want this to shock the volunteers that work for me. I don't want this to shock you. I want you to know it. That's the truth. I will miss it, certainly. But 35 years, that's about half of my life. I want to spend time doing other things than carrying the ball. You realize this as a team captain. You carry the ball for your team. For right or wrong, whatever that is, it's in your hands. If you do it right, you're going to be a winner. You'll get a mug. Make a mistake, and you might just cost your team that mug. But it's all on you. Well, carrying it for the race is on me. And I know that I can do it for this next 2 years, as I told anybody that's been around me or associated with me, that nothing deters me from this race. Nothing. No person, nobody, nothing. If I have to do things myself, I will. But the race will go on. I will do that. So I want you to know that, and I want you to take with you, if you're not taking a physical, get off your butt, get to a doctor, and take that physical. There is no pain associated with prostate cancer. There are no signs associated with it. You will not know that you have it. I did not know that I had it. So be sure you take care of yourself. No one else is going to do this for you. Okay? All right. We'll see you at the next meeting. Good luck, everybody. Oh, the raffle. Oh, yeah, the winner. Jeez. Get out your winning tickets here, guys. Oh, man, that's how you have it? Yes. Like a winning card. There you go. Okay. Here's the winner. Come on up here. Thomas Leone. Where are you, Thomas? Winner.